Previous guest, the first question. I'll leave it to you, sir.
Alrighty. Do you want me to read it as well?
Please.
What was the specific incident that made you choose your career path? I like that because it's always good to go back and see what created you, basically. What was the specific time for me? It was when I was sitting in my garage, depressed, probably. Well, I was probably pretty much on my last leg, and I was pretty much deciding whether or when to end my life. And I was in that darkest time of my life, and somebody called me and asked me if I would go speak at the local high school and talk about my military career. And me being in that mindset, I was like, no. But something told me to say yes. And when I did, and when I went in front of those kids and talked to them, that's when everything changed for me. And that's when I knew, because in that moment as well, and then when I was a kid, I remember sitting in the back of the classroom and I didn't feel like I was good enough. I wasn't smart enough, all these negative things that I felt. I wish somebody would have walked in there and said, hey, you could be whatever you want to be. You just got to put in the hard work. So from that moment, that's when I knew, you know what, I can do that and I can help others, because there's other kids, youth, veterans that just need that. Hey, you can do it. Just don't quit, man. And that's why I do what I do, because for one, I love it. And two, it's just, I'm helping somebody out there.
Have you ever gone back to that person who made that phone call and told him?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
I'm interested to know, have they told you in return that, did they ask because they sensed there was something that they needed to help pull you out, or was it just random that they happened to call and ask you?
It was random. They knew that I retired out of the military, so they just wanted to talk. Well, he was a teacher for students that were heading in the wrong direction, and so was I as a youth. So everything came together.
Was this somebody that you'd known for most of your life?
Yes, actually, I went to school with him. So
Okay.
he knew what I was as a youth and knew that I changed my life. Well, he thought that I changed my life. Well, I did, but he didn't know what situation I was in.
Well, then let's use that as the pivot point, since you've got quite a story. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Okay. So I was born in Uvalde, Texas.
Okay.
A lot of people know about Uvalde now.
Unfortunately, not.
Yes. So I was born there. I think I was 6 months old, and we moved to Brawley, California, which is about 2 hours east of here. So I grew up there.
What brought your family to California?
So my dad's father, he was a bricklayer kind of guy.
Okay.
So they came over here for the Imperial Airport.
Oh, okay.
And I believe they were working on that. And then that's when the whole family moved, all the brothers and sisters. So everybody went back to, because my grandfather was in Phoenix. So everybody went back to Phoenix, but my dad and us stayed in Brawley. And then that's where the story begins.
How did your dad end up in Uvalde?
That's his parents were both from there.
Okay.
So that's where they started. And then game on.
How'd you like growing up in Brawley?
Well, it really didn't bother me because I really didn't know nothing. It's a small little town, farming town. But I do remember growing up feeling sorry for myself. And the reason for it, I went through some abuse as a child at 5 years old. And I just never got over that, but I had to keep moving past that. So I never felt smart. I never felt, good enough for anything. Whatever I was doing in life, I always thought negative. It was just negative all the time. And I like to always go back to my culture as well. And the Hispanic culture, we're always negative. And from what I've seen, we're negative people. Don't do that because you're going to fail. Don't do that because you're going to get fired. Don't do this because you're moving too far away from your family. Stay close, and it's a small town, high poverty, and not a lot of paying jobs there.
I wonder if that's kind of a common thought process or mindset for a lot of immigrants, because I come from an Italian background, and I can relate to some of that even when I was a kid. My dad came here from Italy when he was a young boy, and for him it was get a job, do that job until you retire, and there is nothing beyond just that little bubble. There wasn't a lot of outward thinking, or I'll give it an umbrella mindset of that entrepreneurial mindset of like, hey, go see what you can make happen in your life. It was very much keep everything safe. Just do what's safe.
Yes. Keep yourself comfortable.
Yeah. Don't take chances.
Right.
Because it's almost that gambler's mentality of, hey, I could bet 50 and make 100, whereas the other side of the brain goes, but if I bet 50, I'm going to lose 50.
Yes. And, to go on that, we always think such as failure. It's not going to work. And me growing up always focused on the failure part of it. And so that's why I believe that I couldn't do good in school, and I'm not trying to blame anybody for it, because at the end of the day it was my fault because I didn't put the effort, because I didn't know what effort was. But I remember also seeing successful people or people that had nice vehicles. Oh, they're lucky. I wish I was lucky like them, but I didn't know what, effort was to gain that success. All I knew was that, oh, they're lucky and I'm not. It's because where I come from. We started out in the projects. I do remember that. And then my dad was a very, very hard worker. And then, we got a house and things like that. But I never knew that what was past that. And then I think you hit it on the head when you said about, get a job and just work that for so many years. And I think for us, it's more like put your head down, keep working, shut up, and just retire when it's time.
Was your dad born here or born in Mexico?
No, he was born here. Well, he was born in Uvalde, Texas as well.
Okay. The growing up, big family, mom, dad, sisters, brothers?
Yes, big family. Actually, I'm 5th generation American.
I meant as far as your immediate family. So brothers, any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have 1 brother, 2 sisters.
Where do you fall in the pecking order?
I'm the youngest.
And how did they do in school and everything else?
My brother was very intelligent. He was always getting those honor rolls and stuff like that. My sisters, I really don't remember on that. I know I never did, but my brother was good.
Do you always feel like you were kind of competing with him, so to speak?
No, never did.
Okay.
But I felt like I wasn't going to match up to him though, but I never felt like, I got to be as good as him. I never felt that. It's just that I felt nothing was in the books for me, right. Basically.
Did you play sports or anything?
Yes, I did. I played baseball when I was a kid. I remember the first season of playing baseball ever. I was so afraid. I was scared of everything. And I remember I was in left field, I think it was. And I was so afraid to go ask the coach, can I go to the bathroom? Because I really needed to go. And I would piss my pants, out in field. And I would be so embarrassed. But it was that fear again. I was just afraid to ask. I was afraid to look stupid. It's just a mess. Messed up mindset.
So you pretty much dealt with that the entire time you were growing up?
Yes. And just in my thoughts right now, my dad, again, he would work very hard, come home. Some nights he would get really drunk. He would abuse alcohol. And we were always in fear. Or if he was out late at night drinking who knows where, and when we would hear the engine, we would all run and act like we were asleep. And then my mom had to deal with that. He would start yelling and then start, domestic violence and stuff like that. And I, just thinking about it right now, I'm going back into that darkness. And it was always scary. Everything was scary. I was afraid of him, afraid to ask, hey, Dad, how was, your life or whatever it was. Never had that conversation. Actually, never really had a conversation with my dad because of fear. But now, I really don't have a good relationship with him, don't have a relationship, but it is what it is.
Well, that's the negative side of being a parent. Many of us, and I'll put myself included in it. As a parent, you make mistakes.
Yes.
And if you can't realize it early on, you're going to sacrifice your relationship with your children. There's no way around it, and so not giving your dad any excuses and not trying to heap anything more on him. But, the old adage, he made his bed. He's going to have to lie in it.
Oh, yes. I agree 100% with that.
coming into high school, what were you like as a kid? Did you stay with sports?
I was with sports a couple more years. Actually, in my second year, I was really, really good. Third year, I switched teams. I went to the major little leagues. And when I got a new group of team, I was afraid again because everything was new. So I didn't really do good. After that, I didn't want to do any other sports because, again, I was afraid. Afraid of failure, just afraid of what other people would think if I missed the ball or something like that. It was just fear.
Where I'm going with this is, did you kind of keep yourself on the straight and narrow, though? Were you a good kid, or did you start leaning towards trouble?
Trouble. I was in trouble. Yeah, I was bad. I mean, I would get in fights and just never listened to my mom. Because my mom was always there for me, but it was always, somebody else's fault, and I never took accountability. And I was just a troubled kid, never really did my schoolwork. I just didn't care.
Did you even have a plan? Did you want to graduate high school?
Actually, I didn't even think about that. I just thought life was just life, and it's going to take me wherever it goes.
And the reason why I asked that, because I've done a little bit of digging into your background. Did you drop out or get kicked out of high school?
I got kicked out. I got kicked out of 2 high schools. I got kicked out of Brawley Union High School, and then from there I went to Calipatria High School. And another thing my mom would do for me, drive all the way to Calipatria, which is 10 miles away, every morning, so she can drop me off, go to work, and then go back and pick me up. But I got kicked out of high school as well. I wouldn't listen to nobody, and it was everybody else's fault.
So was it a combination of not doing the work and getting bad grades and being a knucklehead, or was it just merely like the grades aspect?
It was everything. I was a knucklehead. I think the knucklehead took over everything. It's just, you know what? I'm going to do things my way because I knew everything, I thought, and that didn't work out.
When you got kicked out of the second one, Calipatria, how old were you?
I think I was 15 or 16.
And after the second one, does your mom even start kind of going, man, I've had your back to this point, but I can only do so much?
She would cry for me a lot. And, thinking about it now, I was like, damn, why not listen? But, we got to go through it.
What about your brothers and sisters? None of them trying to get you to, pardon my French, pull your head out of your ass?
I remember my brother, yes. My sister, yes. My older sister, she already had moved out, went to Texas. She went to Uvalde. She got married over there, so she was over there. My brother, he was living on his own because my dad kicked him out, actually. So he was living on his own, partying and stuff. He was young. And then my second sister, which is 2 years older than me, she would just do her thing, teenager partying or whatever it was. And I was just on my own.
So you were already kind of living independently, so to speak.
Kind of, yes. Because both my parents work, so I was always on my own.
So you get kicked out of the second high school. You're 15, 16 years old.
Yes.
What are you thinking is going to be your future? Or what becomes your immediate future?
Well, I knew I was going to become something. I was like, I know I'm going to, something good's going to happen. But I just dreamt about it. I had never really applied anything to life. I just figured life was just going to take me somewhere. And I just dreamt a lot and never applied myself. So
if I'm painting the picture, you just sitting around the house all day doing nothing? I mean, that's where I'm kind of getting at is like, what became your life now that you're 16 years old, kicked out of high school? Are you working? Are you just hanging out with friends, getting drunk, getting high? I mean, what are you doing?
So I was hanging out with friends and getting high. I would sell drugs too, chasing women or girls at that time. Just up to no good. And that's what I was doing. That's what I was focusing on. And, talking about that, when I sold drugs, I noticed that I got attention. So I got attention from guys wanting to be my friends, but it was merely because of the fact that I had drugs. And women found me, wanted to be around me as well, but it was about the drugs. So it was never about me. It was about what I had. So
it was always what you could give to somebody else.
Exactly. And I think that's it was the biggest thing to why I had a lot of people around me and I felt special for once.
Anything in that period of your life where it could have or got close to, not that you weren't already derailed, so to speak. I mean, you got kicked out of high school at 16, but did you get close to going to prison or jail?
I never did. And that was crazy. And I remember there was this one police officer. I would be hanging out somewhere and he would always stop me. What are you doing? And then he would be like, what are you going to do with your life? And, he was never rude to me or, trying to bully me or anything like that. He would just talk to me. What are you going to do, man? And I still remember that guy. I haven't seen him ever since, but I always, give thanks to him for that because he would put some stuff in my head. But again, it would just go to the back of my mind and whatever. But so, yeah, I was up to no good. And there was a moment that changed my life, right? My dad kicked me out of my house or his house. And then I was just going from friend's house to friend's house, right? And then my mom would bring like bags of groceries, to whatever house I was at.
Each of us is on the grind. It's that early alarm, the extra rep, the drive that doesn't quit. Grind, spelled GRND, is the mindset that pushes you to go further when most people stop. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built on one simple mission: give 100% and then some more. Every piece of clothing is functional, durable, and made for people who outwork the rest. On the field, in the gym, or wherever you're building your next lane. This isn't just clothing. It's commitment woven into fabric, rooted in American grit and culture. Because when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo. You're representing effort, discipline, and purpose. Check out thegrindcollective.com, the GRNDcollective.com, and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
And it got one day, I had this guy who wanted to buy dope, $500 worth of dope. And he gave me the money. I went to my friend's house. I was like, hey, man, I need some, I think it was half ounce. I don't remember what it was. And he was like, oh, well, just give me the money. I was like, okay. Gave him the money and never saw him again. So this guy I think he was probably like 25, 30 years old. And I was 16, I think, 17. And he was like, where's my money? And I'm like, I don't have it. Well, you better find it, And eventually he was looking for me with a gun and he found me and he pulled me out of this house at gunpoint. So he took me to this apartment and we're hanging out there. And this created a big old mess because somebody called my mom and said, hey, Ernie got kidnapped.
I was going to say, you said you were hanging out. I'm thinking you weren't hanging out if somebody found you with a gun.
Yeah. No, well, they pulled me out of the house, at gunpoint.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I went there and then a friend of mine that was at that it's a drug house, whatever you want to call it. He was there as well, but he was gone. He came back. I was gone. So he went to that house or that apartment to find me. And it turned into this big old fight. I ran out of there. I was like, I'm out of here. I was scared. And it just turned into a mess. And then my mom found me and she was like, hey, I'm going to take you to my brother's house. She said, I'm going to take you to Tito's house, my brother. And then so I stayed with my brother and I was still afraid.
Was he living in Brawley at the time?
Yes. And he was working at a supermarket as a cashier. So in that moment, my mom says, you got to do something. And then, of course, I was in that moment I was scared. So what I did is went back to school, which was continuation. I got my grades together. I graduated. And then that's when I joined the military. So that thing right there where I almost was killed changed my life. And that's when I went into the military. And I always wanted to go in the military because I used to watch like, how was it? The Navy SEALs, I think the movie that came out in the 80s. I watched that and I was like, oh yeah. And then I had an uncle that was in the military as well. So I would see him in uniform. I was like, man, that's cool. And I've always liked war movies and stuff like that. So I've always had that in the back of my mind, like, man, I want to join the military. And then when I graduated though, my mom was like, hey, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're not going to stay here. You got to leave. And then that's when I joined the military.
What year did you end up graduating?
In 91. I was supposed to graduate in 90.
And for all the people listening, they're going to want to know, how'd you clear up the $500 that got stolen from you or by your buddy?
My sister, boyfriend, he was in that game too. And I think that he paid it off. Yeah.
So basically you were able to get out from underneath it.
Yes.
Without any more hassle.
Yes.
Okay. When you said you thought about the military or were already interested in the military, of the branches, how did you settle on the Army?
My uncle was in the Army.
Did you have a good recruiter experience?
Actually, yeah. Speaking of that, well, I think it was about 5 other of my friends that wanted to go in the Army as well. And it was funny is that the recruiter came and picked us all up, and we had, they had like a barbecue or whatever for us and stuff like that. And I remember I was like, oh man, I'm going to be able to go in with all my friends. Yeah, I was the only one that joined. They pulled the old switcheroo. None of them, I think 2 of them joined like a year later, but yeah. And so that's how it happened.
Now, had you started actively going to the recruiter or looking to get into the military while you were finishing up your GED, or was this after you gotten your GED?
I think so continuation is I went to school.
Right.
And I think it was during, if I remember right, it's been so long ago,
When you go to continuation school, do you graduate with a diploma or a GED?
Yes, diploma.
Okay.
So I got to actually walk a stage.
My mistake.
Yes.
So chose the Army. When'd you go in?
In October 17th of 91.
Okay. Has the first Gulf it
was already over.
Just finished, right?
Yes, and it was over in February of 91, I believe it was.
Okay.
And that right there was a little like, man, I want to go to combat, It's like, I want to go to war, war hero kind of stuff.
What was your MOS going in?
So my MOS going in was a 45 Tango, which is a Bradley turret mechanic. So I worked on all the weapon systems. And I already had a kind of a mechanical background. My dad was a mechanic as well. So I think when I scored the ASVAB, it all scored in the mechanical side, I'm thinking. So they put me in that, and I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, did my basic training, which it was a lot of fear in that. But I did notice what basic training does. Because the funny part about it was the first week I was there, I was in transition. So we didn't do nothing. We were just like sleeping around doing nothing. And then I think it was a Friday or whatever day it was, I remember seeing 3 cattle trucks, like cow trucks. And then I saw 6 guys walking towards us, and they started yelling like it was no tomorrow. And that was the funny part because I was scared. And not only that, having the fear of people yelling at me and all this stuff and getting in my face, big guys, it's just the thought of being away for the first time as well. I didn't know how to live on my own. Wash my own clothes, anything, feed myself, So it was a lot of fear in there, but going into basic, breaking us down and building us back up, I see what it does now, and it does a lot of good for people. And me personally, I think every young person should go through military for 2 years at least. That's me.
While you were in basic, and you talk about, still having that fear component kind of following you into it. Mm-hmm. Did you have that moment, though, where you kind of went, all right, scared or not, I got to, quote unquote, man up and get through this? And what was that moment like for you?
Well, I think it was just following orders. You have to follow orders. So it was just more of doing the order and just knocking it out rather than thinking to myself, we got to do this. It was more like, man, I better do it or I'm going to get my ass kicked. And with that, I did witness one of the privates, a drill sergeant told, hey, you got to, do this and that. And this guy said no. And the drill sergeant grabbed him, pulled him behind formation, and just beat him down. And so it came with that too. It was like, well, I'm going to do what I'm told. So I never had the chance to say, well, I don't know about this. No, it was go.
Did your family get to come to your graduation?
No. It was Fort Sill, Oklahoma, so I don't think anybody could afford to go there.
What was it like for you, though, to graduate and kind of, did you feel different? And I say that almost rhetorically, but from the kid going into the young man coming out.
Yes, because just like I was talking about this drug stuff that everybody kind of like me, having that uniform on, I felt like people looked at me because of that uniform, and I felt special, which, of course, we are. And walking around in uniform, really, I had a lot of pride. And serving gave me a lot of pride. It made me feel special. It made me feel above, just an ordinary man. So that gave me a lot of confidence, and I felt good. And I did a lot of great things, because one of the biggest things when I got to my first duty station is that I was not afraid, but I knew I wasn't fitting in. So I had to fit in somehow. So in order to do that, I noticed that people that did really good got promoted. So I started reading books about how to repair vehicles and stuff like that. And I did outstanding. I got promoted fast. And then I started running stuff, becoming a leader.
Where was your first duty station?
It was it was Fort Riley, Kansas.
How was that experience for you? How'd you like being there?
It was cold. It was cold. Feeling out of place, growing up in Imperial Valley, Brawley, you have a high Hispanic population. In Kansas, not so much back then. So it was like, being in a strange place. But I still continued mission and still did what I needed to do, and I did it outstanding.
Did you end up deploying in that first enlistment?
Negative. I did not deploy until 2001 from 9/11.
So that first enlistment you went in, I'm sorry, you said 92?
91.
91.
Yes.
So 96 comes to the end of that first enlistment.
It was 95.
Do you decide, hey, I'm just going to commit to this and stay in, or are you kind of on the fence coming to the end of that first enlistment?
I was on the fence. I was always on the fence. It's because there was some things that would happen, was dealing with dumb things. I'm like, man, I'm going to get out. But every time re-enlistment came, I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going. And so I kept going. And then the second enlistment, from there, I went to Fort Bliss, Texas. And then from Fort Bliss, Korea. And then Fort Carson. There at Fort Carson, when I transitioned from Carson to Fort Hood, I was, I think I left there, was it September 1st of 2001. I got to Fort Hood and I was bored, right? I was still on leave and I was like, man, I'm going to sign in. I'm going to go to my unit. I want to go do stuff, So I signed in. My unit was on the field, 19 Cav, 1st Cav Division. So I show up, they pick me up, we go out to the field, right? Training. And then my mom calls me, hey, they just attacked the World Trade Center. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Next thing, we get a call over the radio, everybody come to the TOC, which is Tactical Operations Center. Get there. And they said, hey, we've just been attacked. We're all going in. So we go in. And this when things get serious. We've been training. I've been in the Army, 10 years, I think it was. And we've been training for combat because the Bradleys are mechanized infantry. So we're up front. So
within your unit, are you assigned to if I'm understanding this correctly, does your team go with the Bradley and that Bradley gets assigned to a unit kind of deal? So I'm almost thinking of like, are you a pit crew for the car, like for the race car, and you follow the race car?
In a sense, yes. So we have headquarters company, right? And then you have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. So all the Alpha through Delta are infantry companies, right? So what we do, for instance, I was Bravo maintenance, so I was with Bravo company. So Bravo company rolls out, we roll out, we go with them. So we're their support.
Got it.
So we get back as a unit. And we have our first formation, I should say. And the company commander comes out and, hey, we've been attacked. We're going to war, man. I remember it, and I still remember to this day the way it just sounded. He goes, we're going to war, and some of you are not coming back. When he said that, wow, it still kind of gets me emotional because I remember looking around. And I specifically remember one guy, Sergeant Hennessy. Sergeant Hennessy did not come back. And I remember looking at him and thinking like, man, is he going to come back? And I was like, so it still gets to me, but he was a good dude. So that was then 2001. They put marching orders on us. They stood us down and then they took 4th ID. 4th ID left to Iraq in 2003. So in that 2003, I was having duty, 24 hours duty. It's called staff duty. So I was doing duty.
What's your rank at this time?
I was a staff sergeant, E6, staff sergeant at the time, and I was pulling duty. And one of the I forgot who she was. She worked in one of the offices. She was support admin. Well, we get a phone call from I don't remember who it was, but I remember it was to let us know her husband was killed in Iraq. And to get that, that's adding to the seriousness of combat, And I remember everybody coming in and contacting her and giving her the news. And I was just like, wow. And I was just talking to her earlier that day. And I remember that it was just, I And I want to say she was pregnant too, if I remember correctly. And that's when I knew things were serious. And it was game on. But we were all pissed off at the same time because we just got attacked. But at the same time, it's just the reality of combat war. And I knew it was going to be tough.
When 9/11 kicked off, are you now, if I'm following the calendar correctly, are you just starting your third enlistment?
I think so. I think because I did 4 every time.
Okay. And coming to the end of that enlistment, you would have been about almost 12 years in?
About then.
Had you already crossed the bridge at that point and said, all right, I'm going to do a career?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It's
so which enlistment did you make the decision like, all right, I'm going to stop fighting this? This is just going to
be my third enlistment. That's when I figured that I'm going to go all the way. And honestly, I was like, this is my life. Honestly, because I didn't know nothing else ever. And so 2004, we deployed to Iraq. And I was in northern Baghdad in the Haifa Street area. Very bad area. Our guys were always going out. I went out a few times. Very, very icky, dark places, and got shot at, all those 9-yard stuff. We lost, I believe it was like about 7 guys in our unit. Every time it did, it was just, it hurt. I knew some of them personally. The others I did not, but they're still family. And when we came back in March of 2005, I didn't know PTSD, all this stuff, right?
If you're like me and you love your coffee, my go-to lately has been Blue Line Roasting. They're a Tennessee-based and law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium beans. You've got choices from Patriot, which is their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They roast all their beans fresh, within 48 hours, and ship them to you even faster. You can also get your beans ground for you or delivered whole. Your choice. But here's the cool part. A portion of what you spend goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injuries or loss. You get an incredible coffee, and they get the help they need. Choose a single bag, a sample pack, or start a subscription so you're never out of coffee. Oh, and shipping is always free. Also, for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. So head over to bluelineroasting.com and make every cup count.
When we came back, they gave us 30 days off. And my friend lived not too far from me. We were going through about a gallon of Crown Royal every 2 to 3 days. But I didn't think about a problem, right? And looking back at everything, the way I look at things now, I like to analyze a lot of things. I think in the back of my mind is that seeing my dad resort to alcohol, I think that was for me. I did the same thing. Hey, that's a safe place, I thought. And it would get worse and worse and worse because when I would drink, I wouldn't drink to get a little buzz. I was drinking till I pass out. Like I would wake up some days like, oh, what did I do? And then that was continuous. And I want to say that I was married. That was my first marriage, by the way. I want to say 5 more years after that, I got divorced. Then I got remarried. And my second marriage, I retired. And that didn't last too much longer after that. I'm on my third marriage, by the way. This is my last one, by the way. And so I wasn't right. When I finally got help, I was about to retire. And the way I got help is that I was cut off in traffic.
Let me
I'm sorry.
Pull you back just a little bit. You mentioned that you never really heard about or understood post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
That deployment was how long?
1 year.
You come back home, and using the way you say you like to look back, have you thought about it in the sense of looking back to while you were actually still deployed? And were there things that were starting to creep in for you there that you maybe were ignoring? Or had none of it really hit you until you got back home?
Nothing hit me until I got back home because being there, we were in high alert. And I remember in our first 6 months, right, we would go out on convoys and I would be so alert, watching all my sector, watching around, being on the gun or whatever it was. I remember to this day on I would say about 6 months in, I would like sit back and say, well, if we get attacked, we get attacked. You know, if we die, we die. It was like that. I don't know why that happened, but it was just fate, I guess, or understanding death is going to happen no matter what. But
did that mindset shift kind of happen with other people? And what I mean by that is, do you remember having conversations with the other guys you were deployed with that they started feeling that same way?
Not having conversations, but I did see it. We all got relaxed. Well, I don't know if I should say relaxed, but it was more like, if it happens, it happens. I mean, I would actually see when mortars were coming in, guys, instead of guys running, they were like walking, you know, like, oh, yeah, whatever. I remember mortars, I could hear them going over my head. I would just kneel, you know, put one leg down, knee down, and then just wait and then get back up and keep walking. It was no more running for cover. It was just like, if it happens, it happens.
Well, and if you want to say, looking at it from a positive perspective, human nature, once we get used to an environment, that becomes what's normal. And so once you get used to mortar attacks and stuff like that, you're like, okay, here's where I can still operate without running for cover, kind of deal. It's not necessarily the smartest thing, but it's an adaptive thing.
Yeah, you know, I like the way you said not the smartest things, because, you know, looking at it, I remember seeing that one guy, he was from 82nd Airborne, he was walking, and I was like, dude, get under cover. He was like, eh. I was like, what?
So we jumped ahead. You were into your last enlistment when it really started clicking for you that there was something wrong.
Yes.
And I cut you off, no pun intended, but that's what will set you off, was you got cut off in traffic?
Yes. So I got cut off in traffic, and I actually wanted to follow this person, and I crushed her freaking head because that's how mad I was. And then I remember I was like, what am I doing? You know? And so later that day, I went to the mental health clinic and did a walk-in, and I said, hey, I need help. I need something. And I remember going into the psychiatrist, or whoever that guy was, into the doctor's office. I sat down. This guy didn't even look at me. He was typing. He turns, he goes, he asked me 5 things, I think it was, like telephone pole, something, right? And he goes, all right. He gave me about 5 minutes, I think it was. And he goes, all right, repeat what I just said. And I named off 2 of them. And he goes, okay, started typing. He goes, all right, we're going to prescribe you, it was depression medication. You have severe PTSD. And I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't even get to talk to me. I was like, we didn't get to talk. You don't know how I'm feeling. I want to tell you how I'm feeling, man. I'm having bad thoughts. And no, it was just, no, take the medication, do a follow-up in 6 months. That didn't make sense to me. So I'm taking this medication now. And I think I had about 6 months left in the military. I think it was. It wasn't too much longer. And I felt like a zombie. I felt like I was in a glass case in my mind. And I felt like numb to everything. And I know it wasn't me anymore. I wasn't a happy guy. Because I was a happy guy at work. I loved it. I was leading soldiers, you know, doing what I love. And when I would go home, I had no feelings. I didn't love anything, or even myself.
Were you still drinking as much?
Yes. Oh, yes. And it would go to, in my second marriage, I really didn't drink in front of my wife then. I would like drink some beers, and then I would pretend like go to the garage and I would drink some more so I can get a better buzz. I would kind of hide it a little bit, but I was drinking a lot. And I want to say just a little, I think it was about, like I said, about 6 months, and that's when I retired. And then I went back to Raleigh. Right. So I was there.
So when you EAS'd out, were you coming out of Colorado?
I was in, I'm Fort Irwin, California. Right.
Okay. So you were back in California when you EAS'd.
Yes. So retired from there. I had a child while I was at Fort Irwin, my daughter, Cadence. So went back to Raleigh, started living in Raleigh. I would say 6 months there, I separated with my then wife. I lived in my own apartment.
Taking you a step back real quick.
Yes.
Coming out, anything that would have kept you in longer?
If I wasn't married. Yeah.
So your wife was wanting you to get out?
Yes. Yes, she wasn't happy there, and she's never been around the military. She's never been away from home, you know. And it just wasn't good. It wasn't a good combination. It was just, I'm not going to say toxic, but it just wasn't working. So
do you have a plan for what you were going to do post-military?
Nothing. There was no plan. Maybe I would say the only plan that I maybe had was everybody's going to hire me because I'm a sergeant first class now. I had 73 soldiers working for me. I'm responsible for this whole motor pool, all these, millions of dollars of equipment. Somebody's going to want to hire me. I know people are going to want to hire me. Well, when I retired, nobody wanted to hire me, And looking back at it, and that's some of the stories that I tell when I speak to kids and youth and other veterans. And having a plan is very important. Going back real quick, when I was out processing, they give us 2 weeks to out process the military. And I remember they had, I want to say 3 days, I think it was, where you learn how to do job interviews and writing your resumes and stuff like that. I remember it was just like, okay, this is how you do a job interview. This is how you do this. But all right, see you tomorrow. I'm like, what? But again, I don't know. I didn't know. I just figured I'm wearing this, E7. I'm a senior non-commissioned officer, and I'm going to figure it out somehow. But I had more ego than, brains at that time.
Well, that's the two-part problem to that. The military does give you the basics, but two parts of it. One, you have to have an idea of what you're trying to get to. If you don't really know where you want to go, it's kind of hard to plan a resume and plan an interview for what you don't really know what you want to do. So that's a little bit on your part of it. From the military standpoint, and I'm not giving anything to this person who went like, all right, peace out for the day, but they've got how many people coming through that
definitely
3-day program? They can't make it granular to you. They've got to keep it all at a very surface level because they don't have the time.
Correct.
So it's a two-part downfall, I'll call it.
Mm-hmm. Going back to those times, I will never blame the military because at the end of the day, it's all on myself as an individual or anyone because you got to create your path wherever you're going to go in life. And I think this is my opinion that just like we go through so many months of basic training, we should start going through maybe a couple more weeks or months to get ready to get out because it is a different world. When I went from the military to civilian, I could not get along with nobody. Nobody understood me and I didn't know how to communicate. That was one of the biggest things for me.
Well, if you think about it, you grew up literally in the military.
Yes.
You think about that kid that went into basic training and the man who retired 20 years later. Most people don't realize what kind of I've heard the analogy. It's like doing time in prison, and they make the joke. That's why they say you serve in the military and you serve time in prison.
Yeah.
It's an indoctrination that happens, and it is a lifestyle and a way of living that for the most part, they tell you what to wear, what to eat, when to eat, where to be. You don't really have to think for yourself. And then they go, hey, there's the door. Have fun.
Figure it out. You're absolutely right. Because I was going to bring that up because, we were told, hey, you have a dental appointment now. You got to, go check physical now, And when we hurt, we just went a sick call, got some pills, and that was it, And so I was on my own. And like I said, I separated from my wife at the time. I was living in my apartment. I was probably, I think I was pretty much drinking every day, having different women over my house every day. And it was just nothing good. It was nothing positive, nothing going forward. It was just all bad habits. And the things that I look at is that I was in charge of so many people. And all those people looked up to me to figure out all their issues. And now I had nobody to figure out anything. And I couldn't even figure it out for myself because I was always helping everybody else. And that's what I love doing. So that was missing, right? I didn't feel important again, going back to that, right? And I felt I couldn't handle anything. I felt lost and I didn't know what to do.
Did you carry or convert over to and stay with the VA? And did you stay on the depression meds?
Yes, I still stayed on them. I don't remember how much longer. I'm trying to remember, but I don't. It got to a point where I still felt like I was in that glass case, and I went through about 5 jobs in 1 year. And the reason I went through them is because, for one, I always thought I was in charge. 2, I had this ego, and 3, I didn't know how to communicate to people, so I had to learn. So I went through so many jobs.
You're the only veteran who's experienced that.
Yeah.
I had a young Marine on recently, and he talked about when he got out, he just random phone call through a family friend. Hey, we're looking for a project manager. You'd probably be good for that. All right. He goes, I went into that company and I acted like I was still a Marine. And everybody around me was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have people start leaving too.
Yeah.
And so from there, I had to do something, but again, it's just things weren't working out for me. So eventually I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I know. So I signed up to be a contractor. I went to Kuwait. Went to Kuwait, and I'm working as a contractor, making money, and I was still married at the time. Things weren't really good. She had asked me for more money, and I was like, well, what are you spending it on? And she was like, you're not going to tell me how to spend money. And I was like, well, it's my money. So from there, we went our separate ways. She was like, hey, you know what? I'm going this way. You go that way. So I agreed to it. And so I still had my daughter at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go back to Brawley. So I went back. And
How long were you in Kuwait?
Say again?
How long were you?
6 months. I was 6 months in Kuwait. I liked it because I was back around military, around a lot of veterans, and, hanging out with them. I feel like I'm at home. So that was a good thing. And then, so I left there, got back. I didn't know where I was going to live. All I had was my car, my guns, and my clothes. That's all I had. So I remember sleeping in a few parking lots in my car. And then my sister, she had said, hey, you can stay in my room, extra room. So she had a little computer room, so I started staying in there. Then started looking for a job. I was doing a little bit of side hustling. I was doing like promotion. We promoted a comedy guy, right? It was good. I was still drinking a lot too. And then that's when that moment came where finally I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Honestly, I was like maybe 2 days away from just ending my life. And then that's when that guy asked me to go speak. I spoke. And
so were you actually sitting in your sister's garage when you got that call? Because I think you said you were sitting in your garage.
I was sitting in my garage. I take that back. I was sitting in my garage of my ex-wife's, right? And then that's when I got the phone call, and I was like, yes, let's do this. So when I did that, and that's when I knew everything changed for me. So from there, I started getting my life together. I joined Toastmasters, I think it was. I joined up Toastmasters. I started learning about speaking. I was working at the time. I wasn't doing that great with that. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to find something better. Went and found something better. I started going back to school. I did that. I did school for about 3 years, got my bachelor's degree in business. And then I found the job that I'm currently in still. I love that job. It's kind of the same thing I used to do in the military. I manage trash trucks, just like tanks. So I love that. Started speaking, so I wanted to speak more. Actually, when I was going through Toastmasters, I would find like anywhere I could speak, I would speak. I was driving from Brawley. I would work all day, drive from Brawley, come to San Diego, speak for like 10 minutes, and then I would drive back to Brawley. I was doing that. I did that for like 1 week at the Del Mar Fair. So I would speak over there, right? So anywhere I could speak, I would do it. I would practice. Whatever I was doing, it was about speaking. So ever since then, and then with my job right now, it's just everything's been on the up, just positive. I stopped taking my medication. I told my therapist, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop taking my medication. She's like, don't do that. Don't go cold turkey. That's bad. I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And what I replaced it with, I used to go hiking now. I went hiking. I was challenging myself and everything, going through all that stuff. So I wish I would have stayed with that. But doing that, I think, replaced all that depression and self-doubt, because I was challenging myself by conquering these hills, these mountains. I would go out there by, I think it's Akumba. I would go in those mountains out there and hike. It was nice.
The first time you spoke was to a group of high school students?
Yes.
How was that for you? Was it easy to tell your story, or was it really hard to really kind of get into it and tell it?
Actually, it was easy. The first time I got to speak in a professional setting.
Let's be honest. We're hard on our sunglasses, especially first responders and military members. They get dropped, scratched, left on the dash, or crushed in our gear bags. Frontline Optics gives you the same premium quality and eye protection without the high price tag. Sure, you can spend big money on the designer brands, but why should you? From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective and water-repellent coatings, every pair of Frontline Optics glasses is built to handle the demands of the job. And here's the best part. When life happens and they break, Frontline Optics has a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. If that's not enough, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every sale supports the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping the families of those who gave everything. If you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and that come from a company that gives back, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
And it makes me laugh every time I talk about it, but I go to this downtown San Diego, and it's this really nice tall building. Get in there, everybody's wearing these suits, nice, looking sharp. I have a long sleeve shirt, tie, and I didn't know what I was going to say. I did not know what I was going to say. And I remember when they called my name.
What was the group about? I mean, when you signed up to go there.
So they told stories. They told their stories, right? And
was this a Toastmasters?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. So this is the Toastmasters. So I got to tell my story, and I don't even know what story I'm going to tell. And this is crazy, right? I'm sitting there. They call me up. I look at the lady next to me. I'm saying, "Hey, can you record me?" She, takes my phone. I go up there. I swear to God, I went black. I mean, I wasn't there. You ever seen that movie Old School, where Will Ferrell, he debates that other guy, right? And he's like, oh, that's how I felt. I felt like I wasn't there. And when it finished, I was like, what happened? They were like, oh my God, your story's awesome. I was like, is it? Yeah. I was like, what? What did I say? But looking at the video, I was talking about my childhood, and then going into the military, and then getting out of the military, going through depression, and then coming out of it. And I was like, I had people coming up to me and like, hey, what if you were like selling something? I would buy it. And I was starting like, oh, I think I'm good at this stuff, so I'm going to keep going, So ever since then, I just try to get better and better and better, reach out more and more and more, because I just feel like me sitting in that garage, maybe I can reach somebody else that's sitting in the garage and pull them out of it. And just not necessarily every word I'm going to say is going to help you, but I can point you in the right direction, at least telling my story, and somebody else can say, you know what? I need more too. I need to go out there and change my life, because it all starts and ends with you.
Have you had the opposite experience? And what I mean by that is, so that first time getting up at the Toastmasters and basically getting through it with no memory per se, have you had the opposite to where you've now been in front of a group speaking and you just, I'll use the word, got dialed in, like you are just into it and you can tell that your story is resonating with the people?
Yes.
What's that feeling like?
It feels powerful. Especially, and I have a story that I haven't even told yet about the abuse that I went through, because I want to also go to abused children or youth and tell them, about my story so they can relate to that well. And I know that's going to be very hard to do, because that's very emotional and very deep wounds right there. But it makes me feel like I'm helping. It makes me feel like I'm talking to me as a kid in that audience, and I just hope that I get to inspire so many to do more. And that's my goal. I don't care about having 1 million followers. I don't care about none of that stuff. All I care about is if I help somebody. If somebody was to come back and tell me, hey, you know what? I changed my life. Thank you because of your story. And that right there is going to be all the payment I need in my world, in my life.
Have you, going back to that young man, because you were still young at the time, reaching out to medical and saying, hey, I'm not doing well. They put you on medication.
Mm-hmm.
You then come out, you struggle through, but you make the decision, you know what, I'm going to go off these meds because they're making me a robot, so to speak.
Yes.
I'm not living my life well. But then to go to, but I'm going to start telling my story and all of the trauma that I've experienced. Was there any fear of, man, every time I retell this story, it's just going to send me backwards? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Was there that fear, or were you looking at it like, no, I need to tell my story because it's going to help me keep moving forward?
I always tell people when I tell my story, it's therapy. It's always therapy. And now there's some times that I've told my story and I got emotional and I never expected that. Like, that child came out and I started crying, I got, caught up in I couldn't talk. And that right there, I was like, wow, I know I still got a lot more work, especially with that abuse. I need to get in there. I've been to therapy for my abuse. I did have to, I think it was called cognitive therapy, where I talked about it over and over and over again. I did do that. So I'm okay with telling the story, but it's just, I know I need to practice that because it's going to be very, very deep.
Now, did you start that therapy also after you got out of the military?
Yes.
So you really never sought any help before all of it, I'll say, kind of broke down on you?
Never. Never. And that's why I wanted to bring up my childhood traumas, because I think when the final straw was when I broke down after seeing all that stuff in Iraq, that it was just a ticking time bomb, I think. And I'm just fortunate to where I got a sign, I say help from God, that changed my life, changed me in a different direction rather than taking my life. And that's why I think that reaching out to others to hopefully pull them out of that darkness. And that's what it is, my goal.
Do you have I'll call it a calendar, in the sense of, are you speaking more frequently now and actually scheduling it out? Or is it still kind of coming randomly, so to speak?
Randomly. It's doing my videos on social media, trying to get myself out there. Hopefully somebody's like, hey, I need you over here. And then that's when it's going to spark that wildfire. I feel it's coming, but I'm never going to quit. I'm going to keep going.
Using the social media aspect of it, because anybody who follows you knows that you post some very inspirational postings. Where did that come from, and what pushed you to do that? And then what pushes you to keep that consistent?
So why I started doing it, I started talking to myself. So I'm talking to myself still. And also it goes back to me helping somebody, because there's somebody out there that needs help, and including myself, because there's going to be some days I'm not 100%, but you know what? I got to talk to myself. And that goes with that communication. And what helped me with that communication, it was a book that I read, Leadership Strategies and Tactics by Jocko, where he talks about communication, not only with yourself, but with others. But talking to myself really helps. Some people may think that's crazy, but it's not, because you got to be your best cheerleader. So me just, pumping myself up, talking to myself, having a set routine, and I'm never going to stop. I'm going to keep going, because again, it's not about 1 million followers. It's about helping others. So that's why I'm going to keep doing it. And that's my goal, just to keep doing it, because somebody's going to want to hear it out there.
Do you get that feedback, and does that kind of drive you? Have you connected with people like, hey man, I really resonated with your story and thanks for sharing it, kind of deal?
Yes, I do get those messages. And what was it? Saturday, I was at a restaurant picking up food for me and my wife. And I had a guy, he goes, hey, are you Ernie Mariscal? I'm like, yes. And he was like, I follow you, man. Good stuff. And I'm like, appreciate that. And that made me really happy. And it's nothing with my ego. It's just, I'm glad I'm helping. And that's my goal.
Well, I think there is a little bit of it, though, that I'll call it ego, in the sense that you want a little bit of affirmation from somebody to say, hey, I appreciate that you're putting your story out there and that you're being honest, because to a degree, you could almost say to yourself, hey, I'm putting myself out there, but if nobody's giving me the feedback that it's resonating with them, it's almost kind of like, is it doing any good? Is it helping? So there is a little bit of ego, but it's more of, I would say, just wanting affirmation that what I'm telling you, you want to hear.
Yeah, I'm glad it's working. Yeah, I would say that. Plus, I mean, my life's not perfect. It's not. But at the same time, it does feel good when somebody says that, and it gives me more fire,
Right.
and I wake up and then I don't know what it is, but I just have these sayings in my head, and then I come up with these words or whatever I'm going to say, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to throw it out there, and I pray too, and I say, hey, God, help me with some stuff, and again, it comes, and then I say it and keep going, and I'm going to say it more and more, and just I love this stuff. Honestly, I do love this stuff.
Have you done any more specific training related to public speaking?
I have not. I mean, I do watch some guys that I really like. Inky Johnson, I really love his stuff. I try not to listen too much because then you're going to start, soaking in how they speak and stuff like that. So I try to stay away from it, but I like what he says sometimes and, stuff like that. So that gives me inspiration as well.
And I would imagine too, it's repetitions. The more often that you get up in front of people and tell the story, the smoother the delivery changes. I would imagine you kind of critique yourself almost after every speaking appearance.
Oh, definitely. And when I'm driving, I do speeches. So I practice. For instance, Monday I'm going to be in Brawley, and I'm going to speak at the high school. Actually, I'm going to be introducing somebody from Jocko's camp, so it's be pretty cool.
Have you intentionally stayed with the kids program through Brawley, through your friend, or have you branched out and are you doing other schools and school districts? I mean, what I'm getting at is, are you trying to really focus on those young men and women?
Well, yes. And I've spoke at other high schools. Currently I'm in Fresno now, so I speak around that area as well. But I mean, if any high school hits me up or elementary, hey, can you come speak? I'll come out and speak. I like youth, speaking to them more because I remember how it was, especially the way I was growing up, being negative and just didn't believe in myself. And I'm doing good right now. I'm very, very blessed. And my biggest thing is to let them know I'm no better than you, and you can do the same thing I'm doing or even better. Just don't ever quit, keep going and focus. And that's what it's all about.
Well, I've told this to guests. Unfortunately, I think for all of us, the people who get up and speak to us, if they've got a very, hey, everything went perfect story, in a weird way, it kind of loses something, because I don't think a lot of us can really relate when you had no struggle. Mm-hmm. Hey man, great mom and dad, then I went to college and everything fell into line, minimal headaches. Whereas you got somebody who, man, I got kicked in the teeth this time, and I got kicked in the teeth this time, and I got kicked in the teeth this time. We relate because we can go, man, I know what that feeling's like. Or I hate to say this, you could almost kind of look at someone and go, well, my life hasn't been as that bad, and he still or she still made it. Mm-hmm. I think there's something to being able to share a story that's not all roses, mm-hmm. so to speak, that helps it, especially with young kids, kind of hits home harder for them.
Right, definitely, especially with social media, because I think a lot of these youngins look at social media as life. It's not life. There's a lot of people that faking it on there, and I've met quite a few, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you were this, and they're not. They're totally different people. And I think that's why there's a lot of depression as well, a lot of mental health issues, because you portray your life as something on social media, and in reality, you can't match that. And that's why a lot of people don't feel, adequate, and they feel depressed because they're not that person, and they're faking it, basically.
Well, they're evaluating somebody's life in 45-second increments, right, that are curated. That, hey, that's take number 45 before it finally got posted, So to think that that's reality, when you look at the reality shows that are on TV and how scripted they are, it's all curated to feed to a particular emotion,
to create an audience. And my wife and kids were watching that, I forgot what it was, Treasure Island, Love Island, or something island, and I sat down and looked at it. I was like, no, these guys are, I know this is, you could tell it's fake, guys. And they're creating on the audience just to create, have all this drama to create more listeners. It's just, no, that's not life.
We're sitting here with some books between us, any idea or plans to put your story on paper?
Yes, I do have a plan for that. But what I want to do is to create more of a audience to where I'm speaking at places a lot more often. My goal is to go from the job that I currently have and just speak full time. So that's my goal. And once I start doing that, and then I do my book, I have that book with me. I do have my own t-shirt lines, Keep Up the Fight apparel. So I do have that, and I do have a cigar line as well. So that's going to follow me along with the book as I start hitting places once I get that fire going.
How'd you get the cigars going? So
a friend of mine, Tommy, he got me lined up with these guys right out of here out of Carlsbad, Payne Mason. So basically, just relabeled it with my logo, and then Keep Up the Fight cigars. This is pretty awesome.
Now, where can you find the cigars at?
You go to Payne Mason, find the Keep Up the Fight apparel. Keep Up the Fight cigars. You can find them there. My website is keepupthefightapparel.com. You can find t-shirts. Now, this logo right here, real quick. So you see the shield around the warrior, right? So what the warrior, keeping up the fight, and then the shield is Aztec calendar, which is 365 days of being a warrior. So that's what this logo means, keep up the fight. And that's what life's all about, keeping up the fight.
And that's also your website, right?
Correct.
And as far as getting more speaking engagements, is that going to require you to get kind of do you need to get with a speaking company, or are you able to grow this all on your own?
I've been doing it on my own. I've met some guys that do have their own companies. I just want to do something. And if a company will say, hey, come with us, I'm just going to see how everything goes. And because my goal is to speak.
No, I was just that's what I was thinking about. You say that's your long-term goal. I just didn't know if in your plan, you're like, hey, if I'm going to get bigger, I need to get with a company to start marketing me, so to speak.
Yeah. I really haven't, reached out to anybody or looked at that. I might need to.
Well, to kind of wrap this up, I always like to ask any last piece of advice, transition, life, anything that you want to make sure you get out there to, veteran or first responder?
My biggest thing is who you surround yourself with. Okay. I rarely drink now. Rarely, if I do, one or two.
But you smoke cigars.
Yes, I do. I don't inhale them though. I mean, I sound like Bill Clinton right now. I don't. I sit back in my front yard by myself and just relax, puff on a cigar, and just think about what I'm going to do tomorrow.
When you started smoking cigars, were you still drinking?
Yes.
I just wonder, because I enjoy a cigar. I just wonder, can you still enjoy it without an accompanying drink?
I don't. I rarely drink now, but back then I wasn't really drinking that much anymore when I started. So yeah, but I don't need alcohol no more. I don't need it. But my last words would be this: surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with positive things. Surround yourself with things that are going to push you to be better, because you want more. I think in life, if you're not going after something, that's when you're going to feel stagnant. And when you feel stagnant, that's when depression sits in. So you got to always push forward. And failure's going to happen. Failed many times. I'm still failing. But the thing is, I look at it and adjust to it and then grow from it and become better because of the failure. So you're winning. So just come back stronger. But just don't quit. Just because you failed doesn't mean that you're not good enough, because that's not what it is. Because in life, that's what life is. Just imagine, somebody that's a CEO right now, could they be a CEO at 20 years old? No. They'd have to get to some experience to know how to be that CEO. And that's what life is. If you want to be better, you got to go through the trials and tribulations to become better. So that's what life is about. So don't think life sucks. It's the process of life to get where you need to get in life. That's it. But just surround yourself with good people, people that'll push you, people that care about you, that truly care about you and want to see you win. That's
that old saying, constantly reevaluating your circle.
Yes.
And if you're the best one in the circle, it's time to get a new circle.
Amen. I agree.
I appreciate you sharing your story and sharing your time. Thank you very much.
Sir.
And all the best going forward.
Yes, always. Thank you.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.